Okay, so welcome back to our Ampeg SB-12 adventure. This is day 2, and if you remember, the handle, which has now been removed, was wrapped in about 2 feet of duct tape. Well, here's why. It actually has a metal frame to it, but this loop of leather just dried out and fell off, so I still have duct tape glue on it. This type of handle is available as an aftermarket replacement, so I think we're just going to do that rather than stress out about it. So that's the handle. We're going to use the original screws because that's just cool. So let's pop the lid off of this thing and see what kind of tubes are in it. Okay, so let's take a look at our tubes. Our 5AR4, it doesn't say anything except GT Britain. That must be a Mullard, maybe. That was the guys who made them in Britain, right? Okay, these two that are the 7868s, these are Westinghouse. I'm not actually familiar very much with the 7868. Is this an octal tube? I think it is. Let's see. I'm going to clean these sockets anyway. That is not a normal octal socket. This is something else. So we'll have to look up that tube a little bit and see what it is. Now I'm sort of perplexed. There's this white powdery junk on the tubes, sockets, all the metal. Hey, these, I mean, it wipes right off. What is that? What is that? Anyway, what are these? Amperex 12AX7 and a matching Amperex. So these are Amperex Holland made 12AX7s. So Amperex, Westinghouse, Mullard. I don't see why this wouldn't be the factory tube complement. Yeah, so I'm going to just get a rag and I'm going to wipe all this white stuff off of these and maybe spray a little contact cleaner in the tube sockets. Okay, our output transformer says 682, which is the manufacturer code. I think that was CTI or now TMI or something. And then 723, 23rd week of 1967. Sounds about right, because they didn't make these into the 7th year of the 70s. They made these into just the top of the 70s. Most of these were 60s, like 65, whatever. So this would be 67. Okay. Cool. Now we know. I'm going to take these tubes out because they can possibly get damaged, and we'll flip this over. Okay, so I lifted this up off the chassis. Is this glue? This green stuff, that's glue. And that was used to paste a schematic right to that. How beautiful is that? Thank you, people at Ampeg. Alright, let's look inside. Alright, so we'll just start from one side and creep on over to the other. CDE, code Cordell Dublé or whatever, right? Those guys. Got something over here called a black cat. Oh, hey, look, I got a wired by. I don't see wired by, and wired by 15. Okay, tested by 509H maybe? I don't know. I'm trying to read that. I don't see any date codes or anything there. So these look like Cornell Dublé. CDE, I guess that's Cornell Dublé. What's this? I see a DU, that's probably Dublé also. No, this is DUC. I don't know who made that one. And then these look like the Mallory's, but unlike a fender, they're not like blown up. Whenever I see these things, I'm thinking blown up Mallory's. And I think both of these lights work. There's our 2 lights that illuminate our plexiglass plate. They seem to be okay. So this has definitely not been in. Nobody's been in here tooling around. This is an original, non-messed with amplificator. We've got a big honking black cap back there. I'm seeing a hint of a bubble right there. So, this filter is so quiet though. Huh. I don't know. I would have figured she would have been humming at me if it was trying to belly flop. Let's look at the other side if we can see it. Yeah, I don't see any actual physical leakage, but that little bubble there is of concern. These are the metal tip sides, so these aren't going to do us any good. We'll have to flip it around and look at the other side, see if we have any bubblies over there. Okay, I don't see any bubbles there. Let me get the bright light and we'll double check. Okay, with the really bright light, you might be able to see just a tiny one between the leads on this one over here. It's tiny. See, usually those are like really bubbled out when the vent is starting to go. So, it's of concern. But it hasn't gone poof or pop. And this one appears to not have either. And let's take a look at this one again, the big boy down there. Huh. Okay, so this big boy is a 30 microfarad. This double is a mystery because the value is stuck underneath, but we can read that out the schematic. And then this is, looks like 20. This is 20 at 450 volt. So, but this amp does not hum. It does not hum. You heard it on the last video when we were checking it out. It does not hum. So, okay, so we got a little roller there. I'm not sure what that's for. I don't know what that trim pot is for. We can look at the schematic and read it. We'll just snap a couple photos of it, maybe blow it up nice and big. And then this trim pot down there, that's probably hum balance. I would think it would be hum balance. It's usually what they put on the top, either that or it's bias. Alright, so we got one little couplet thing at the front there. And that white powdery crap is on those pots. Those pots are whisper quiet though. We'll put a little bit of cleaner in those and crank them around. And that pot was whisper quiet. That's the volume pot. Okay. So the power tubes for this are actually not difficult to come by. I think they're, they're market value for tubes. I guess they're not, rarity expensive tubes. So under normal circumstances I would be like, oh my gosh, we gotta recap this, but it does not hum at all. What the heck? So wish I knew what that said beyond DUCA. On those red ones, DUCA. That's what I see. Those are 50 microfarad. I don't know how many volts. Well, let's read the schematic. Let's see what we see. Okay, so I'm reading the schematic upside down. But that's okay. So that must be our trim pot. See, we come into our base input here and we have this 120K trim pot on this 100K resistor. So that would be, it doesn't look like a 100K resistor though, it's a different value, but we have a, that's probably the 5.6 that it comes off of, but there's got to be another resistor up here. So the base input goes to resistor and then it comes around probably to this little trim pot and then it can go through to there. So this one, see, this input just goes through its resistor and into that, yeah, to that one. That's the one on the board we saw. And then the other one goes to the trim pot. So apparently you can adjust the base one for its volume. And we go into the first part of a 12AX7, come out of that, tone network, 12AX7. See this one, okay, there's our phase inverter. See, we're taking off the cathode to feed this tube and we're taking off the anode to feed that tube. So that's our phase inverter. And we do have a feedback loop, looks like. Yeah, so we have a feedback loop. So that feedback loop would be definitely expected in an Ampeg, coming off of our power transformer over here, coming back through a 100K resistor back to the 12AX7. Ampegs are clean, and more clean, so that would be expected. See, model SB-12 tells about the tubes. See if there's any other clues about the year here. I apologize if this is kind of blurry. If you all want to donate money to my channel, go find me on the Mr. V site and donate me some money. We'll buy a real camera. This is cool. Factory adjust to give 80 milliamps of plate current for both valve 2 and 3, which valve 2 and 3 should be the power tubes. Yes, it is. Okay, cool. And one is the rectifier, so we have a winding there. The 6.3 feeds the 2 light bulbs, and then the filaments. Rectifier tube, we have 30 mic at 420 volts, probably measured. So that's, yeah, 500 volt cap. And then we have 20 mics at 450, 20 mics at 450, and 20 mics at 450. So apparently they decided to do a double here and a single here in that case. So we would be changing that with 3 separate caps if we opt to replace it. Or actually, the way they strap those down, I could probably, you know, getting a double 20 at that voltage, you can probably get that from JJ or F&T. And then let's see. So that's our main power rails, A, B, C, D. And then we have this additional and that's our bias circuit. And our bias circuit is, we have the 50 mic at 50 volt. So 50 mic, 50 volt, that would be those 2 red ones of mystery manufacturer. So if those 2 go south, so does our bias, and our tubes get red hot. So I know there's a bunch of ampaholics out there right now going, DK, just suck it up and change them because they all need to, because they're all old and you got to change all the old da 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 da. I can hear you screaming from your seats. But look, I've got a 1967 amp that is all original, probably even the tube set, and it's working perfectly and it's not humming. I am not jazzed about doing anything other than giving this thing a bath. I'm sorry. We're going to give it a bath because it needs it. You know, the grill cloth is grubby. Oh, that makes me so sad. But, so I'm going to probably take the speaker out to clean the grill cloth because I don't want to mess it up. It's interesting how the camera can actually see the port. You can see the port on the right side. That vertical strip is the port. And then the speaker is actually kind of located on the lower left. So you can actually make it out in the camera, where I can't make it out that well with just my eyes. I can see the port pretty well. So I think what we'll do is we'll clean that, but we'll remove the speaker so it doesn't get wet, because we're going to try to scrub all the grub off the cabinet. The cabinet feels a little sticky. Okay. And then these 2 leads that are coming down here, these are our output leads, and they end up going to those posts, which go to the latches to feed the speaker. So we're going to have to adjust the speaker latches. The other idea that I had in regards to this is, see, there was some kind of stripping, weather seal stripping stuff here, and this actually still feels pretty pliable and pretty springy, but, you know, given that this thing is 51 years old now, this rubbery material may have kind of lost its spring, as this Tolex, that and the other side may have lost its spring, so the latch probably isn't clamping as hard as it could. So we can try to adjust the latch a little bit and get it to clamp a little harder, or we can put a little bit thicker weather stripping, maybe just do a little bit, just another layer of weather stripping, and that'll make the top clamp down tighter too. because we need to make sure we have super duper good contact on those two clips for this to work properly. Yeah, that's the lid. I just set it over here. So, okay, so that's our inspection completed. As far as what I intend to do to this before I put it back together is just to spray some cleaner in the tube sockets and a little bit in the pots, just for posterity. We're not going to attack this with a soldering iron yet. It just works too well. And, you know, if we get it back together and it starts making weird fuzzy fizzy noises, then we'll attack it with a soldering iron. But those caps look like, for the tone caps and everything, well, the bias caps are electrolytics. So go figure that one. I think they are. Well, let's look. Yeah, they are. Let's see. We gotta make sure. Oh, yep. No, well, these two. E. Never mind. The balances are what? What is that? 0.15? 0.15. So these are, you know, classic paper and oils. These are the ones that everybody just goes bananas for and spends big money to buy Sozos and everything else. And yeah, I know it's a risky proposition to not go gutting these and ripping them out, but you know, do we want this to be a museum piece that can come out and play once in a while, or are we going to try to take this on the road? I don't see that taking a 25 watt, yeah, it's 25 watts, a 25 watt bass amp out on the road tour right now with anything is that great. And I do have some more information on the history of this, so we'll probably discuss that after it gets a little bit more of a bath. So we'll clean the sockets and put the chassis back down and go to cleaning up the cabinet. My intention, I don't know that I'm going to film cleaning up the cabinet. We usually use a product you can buy at Dollar Tree called LA's Totally Awesome Cleaner. It's a degreaser. Does a good job of taking all the sticky crap off the Tolex. Once we're done with that, sometimes we wipe down the Tolex with something to make it smooth and shiny. And for the grill cloth, probably a soft brush and the LA's Awesome Cleaner, and possibly follow up with the vacuum of a carpet shampooer, like an upholstery adapter on a carpet shampooer. As long as we have the speaker out of there where it can't get wet, and we don't get the insulation all wet, and we give it plenty of time to dry, I don't see that there'll be a problem. So, not wanting to mess with the originality of this, and since it works so freaking well, we're going to just consider this a look over. So we'll just clean the pots and call it a win. That was a lot of rambling.